we couldn't find the room that this was being held in. So we were like, late. And Mercado, he just goes like this. And he's like, yeah, whenever you walk into a room late, you just go like this. Like, hi, everybody. Because then they're going to be like, oh, he's weird. That's why he's late. I'm like, Mercado, it's us. Like,
I dare you to try it. I dare you.
Like, we're wicked weird.
Welcome to the Hindsight, the Rhode Island National Guard's podcast,
where we talk with our members about their lives and discuss the moments that define them in their service.
Cool.
Today we're joined by
Sergeant Mercado
and Sergeant Corcoran.
All right, welcome guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Tell the audience a little bit about who you are, where you work, what you do.
I'm Staff Sergeant Incze Mercado. I am originally from Worcester, Massachusetts. If you come from Worcester, Maine South, everybody knows where that is, Clark University. Moved to Rhode Island when I was right around 11th grade. Ended up joining the Rhode Island Army National Guard. Decided that I really loved the Army lifestyle. I loved the discipline aspect of it. I loved the leadership. I was originally a military police officer in the 115th Military Police Company. Had some very cool leaders, very cool experiences there. And I eventually made it into recruiting. So I've been a recruiter now for 4 years. And that's what I do.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself.
There's way more to that.
We'll get there.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I'm Ryan Corcoran. I'm from Westerly, Rhode Island. I joined the Army when I was 17. Went to basic between my junior and senior year. Finished up my senior year. Went active duty. I was active duty for like 10 years. Had a few duty stations. And my last duty station, I was at Fort Drum. I was kind of faced with, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in? Am I going to get out? So I decided to transition to the Guard because this was kind of a happy medium. I got to move on to bigger and better things, but I still got to put the uniform on. And pretty much right when I transitioned, I got in touch with recruiting, and I got hired as a recruiter. I've been recruiting for 3 years now, a little over 3 years. And yeah, that's what I do.
All right. So thank you both for joining us. The reason we invited you guys on here today was you have recently competed in and won a regional Best Warrior competition. So you won the state NCO of the year.
Yes, sir.
We sent you to
New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. And you competed against, I don't know what the region is. Are we talking FEMA regions?
So it's the country's broken down into, I believe off the top of my head, 8 regions. And Rhode Island is in Region 1, so it's all 6 states of New England plus New York and New Jersey. So all those states sent their top NCO and their top junior enlisted soldier, and we all competed.
All right. So that's all of New England plus those 2 states.
Correct.
So importantly, you beat Massachusetts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to confirm, Massachusetts was there.
Yes.
Rhode Island beat Massachusetts.
Yes, but they gave us ran for our money. They were...
Massachusetts is good.
Yeah, Mass and New York brought some top dogs.
I can imagine. I mean, New York's got like several divisions, don't they?
I think the NCO, Staff Sergeant Mulholland, I believe, he said, I think there was like a little over 13,000 soldiers.
Wait, okay, so like one full division to choose from.
That's a lot of people.
Still a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
So, yeah. But yes, we did beat Massachusetts.
Okay.
Marginally. They were squared away.
That's good.
We'll probably
No, at
cut
least.
that from the podcast.
It wasn't
We don't-
marginally. We crushed everybody.
Yeah, perfect.
I just want to, I don't want to burn any bridges. I got to be a little bit humble here.
We're all friends, okay?
But that actually, in all seriousness, though, it's good to know that you have won amongst the best.
Yeah, it's a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
It's like validation to myself. So, yeah, it's cool.
All right, so for someone who's never participated in that competition, what is competed? What are the events? What is this competition?
It was pretty similar between state and regionals. You want to tell like what exactly we all did?
Sure. So day 1, well, actually we got there before day 1. It was 5 days total. So You have in processing where you get your rooms and stuff like that, just like normal Army school stuff. The first day he knocks out a ACFT, absolutely crushes the whole ACFT. No, he's being modest.
Okay?
He crushed the ACFT.
I didn't.
We did land nav. He did actually the best on the land nav. Don't let him be so modest. He's an absolute animal.
I'll
at
own
land
that
nav.
one.
He's like a deer in the woods when it comes to land nav. So you did land nav. You did marksmanship. You did AWT lanes.
Stress shoot.
Yes, stress shoot.
And that was incorporated with the lanes.
Yeah. Weapons assembly and disassembly. You went into the oral board.
Yeah, oral board. Road march.
Road march.
What else?
Actually, I'm sorry. You had
Mystery event?
The mystery event.
Yeah.
That was the big mystery event. So
The mystery event was so it's mystic. So what they'll do is they'll create like this like induced stress environment, loudspeakers playing like gunfire, people screaming, like mimicking like a very terrible situation,
Yes.
right? Just high stress, and then they presented you with like casualties, and you had to do like all the life-saving skills and stuff like that on the casualties. And like a lot of times they'll have like super soakers full of fake blood, just like spraying you down with it, people pushing you, like the room might be completely blacked out with like a strobe light. It gets crazy. So that was the mystery event.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad. It was during the day. It was pretty stressful, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, I can tell you that's intense.
Yeah, it was. It is pretty intense. It's so easy to get tunnel vision doing stuff
Yeah.
like that too, because you have like every single one of your senses is firing on all signals, and you're just like, holy cow, what's going on?
and it was definitely different for Sergeant Corcoran because he had 2 soldiers there that was supposed to secure the room, and he didn't have any SOPs or anything incorporated with these Joes. So he's going into this room to evaluate 2 casualties, and he has really no help. You know,
They provided 2 role players, and they were supposed to like assist, but it was like a soup sandwich.
it was definitely a soup sandwich. Sergeant Corcoran handled himself very well, and he had a lot of command presence there.
Yeah, it was good.
Get
It
in
was
the
fun.
corner.
But for preparing for all of this, honestly, we didn't do like a whole lot of prep. So we did, but we didn't. Yeah. So for state, we went into it just like, hey, here we are. Let's party. And then we took all of that and realized where our strengths and weaknesses were, and we pretty much just like fine-tuned where we could make up some points. And then we went into regionals far better than we were.
Yeah.
So you both competed?
No, he
No,
was my sponsor,
I was
so
sponsored.
I
Okay.
didn't do anything without him standing like right next to me.
So what does a sponsor do?
A sponsor kind of just is like bridging the gap and helping the soldier who's competing stay in that tunnel vision, because we want that soldier focused on the next task. I want to be there to give him anything that he needs, to speak him through like, hey, you should back off on this event, or you should push on this event, kind of watch the other competition and tell him a little insight. Oh, Massachusetts is not doing that good. New York crushed you on this. You know, I'm just
That
there
didn't
to.
happen.
It didn't happen ever. But you know, sometimes you got to tell him that, and then the beast goes a little crazy in there.
We studied a lot together.
Yes.
There was like a lot of our 30-minute drive home, you know, on our hands-free device, of course, going back and forth on like study guide questions and just going over scenarios and just like a lot of rehearsing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he took care of me completely. I guess he was like the continuity between myself and like the people running the competition. And just kind of kept me grounded and helped me out.
Seems like it worked out well.
Oh, we are a good team.
So you
Yeah.
guys already worked together with in the recruiting.
Not like this.
So no,
Okay.
it's weird because me and Sergeant Corcoran, we boarded. So I had never met him when he came off of active duty. When we took the first PT test, I seen this 6'5" behemoth of a man, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to destroy this guy. And then I heard I was getting graded by Master Sergeant 40 at the time, and he's from the SF, and he's like, that guy's a Ranger. He's gonna crush you on. And I'm kind of competitive when it comes to PT. So I'm standing here next to this 6'5" just behemoth of a man, just intimidated. So we do the PT test, and then we board together, and I'm like, this guy's got the job. He's got the job. I ended up getting hired prior to him, but he got hired right after that, and then we ended up going to recruiting school together. But we've never worked on a formal team together. He's on the South team. I'm on the North team.
But you still fall under the recruiting command.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So what's that like?
What's working for recruiting, or what is it
Yeah.
like with the dynamic of us being on separate teams?
With recruiting.
I love recruiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool job. It's very rewarding when you get to like see how you came into this organization and how you're always doing an AAR with a new soldier. You know, you're always trying to figure out what you can do better to make their transition into the Guard and their, experience with leadership better. And I feel like how our relationship has kind of molded together is through the RSP program. He's the platoon sergeant of white phase and green phase right now, and I fall under him. So that's kind of where we get to get that push and pull, that ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm.
Just for, the audience, what is white phase and green phase and that stuff?
So there's a recruit sustainment program. So when you enlist, instead of just like sitting around and doing nothing until you ship to basic training, you come and drill with us once a month. So your first initial drill is red phase. That's when you learn like the rank structure, customs and courtesy, stuff like that. And once you do your red phase, you go into white phase, and that's kind of like the sustainment phase. We'll do a lot of good training. We do like rappelling, we do like medical training, land nav, radios, all kinds of different stuff. And they'll do that monthly until their ship date. And so let's say you joined as a junior in high school. You go to basic training between your junior and senior year, and you come back for your senior year. You've graduated basic training at that point, so you're a soldier. But you haven't gone to your job training yet, and you can't do that until you graduate. You'll be in green phase because you're a soldier at that point. So Sergeant Mercado and I run those phases. It's a lot of fun. It's like the more realistic training, the stuff that they're going to encounter at basic training versus like red phase. Red phase is cool. It's just kind of like an indoctrination kind of thing. So that's what we do.
So I want to jump in on the that split option that came up in our last podcast with Sergeant Mendes. That's like the one big regret I have is I didn't enlist soon enough. I wish I had taken a split option when I was 17. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about green phase? Talk a little bit about what a soldier does. They've become a soldier. They're back. They're a senior in high school. They've got 9 more months of school and drill before they get to go to their AIT. Mm-hmm. What are they learning? What are they experiencing? What benefit are they getting from that?
All right, so I have 8 green phase soldiers right now, and I have them in kind of like this group chat. So green phase, they've already been to basic training. They have these like inculcated skills. They already understand that they need to be a leader and that they're held to a higher standard. White phase, they don't really get that just yet. They've had that initial shock phase of red phase, and they understand like, hey, I have to do PT now. Hey, I have to get a haircut every month. Hey, I have to be at drill. But they don't get that selfless service that the green phase does. So what I do with my green phase is I use them as team leaders and squad leaders. So I'll say on a group chat, like, hey, we have RSP weekend this weekend. I'm just going to say Soldier A or Alpha team leader. You have to make sure that all of your soldiers have all their stuff, PCCs and PCIs, and that they are accounted for when we get to drill 15 minutes prior. And they're essentially my team leaders when, we're doing tasks in the field. Especially like when Sergeant Corcoran is doing lanes, those guys are the ones that we're leaning on to kind of get this formation in order, kind of reel them back in, because 50 kids is kind of a lot for 2 people.
I can imagine too, white and red phase might be a little overwhelming for somebody who doesn't know a lot about the military. So what are some sort of recommendations you give to people if they start to feel stressed out and maybe potentially want to fall out?
We do not create that environment. So Sergeant Mercado and I are in charge of that phase. And historically speaking, or even like look at other states, they like to mirror basic training. So like high intensity, high stress, high, just, you get it, right? But we don't really think we need to practice that. We don't think that they need to practice being uncomfortable, being miserable, being, whatever. So for us, we try to make it fun. We try to make it like real low key, real low stress. You mess up, we'll talk to you about it, but there's no like, we're not smoking people out there or anything like that. It's just like, hey man, you forgot your ID card, what's up with that? Or you forgot your boots or whatever. All right, can you not do that next drill? But we try to steer clear of
Just
making...
be supportive.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So we don't... That's not really like something that we run into where people are like, nope, this isn't it. I don't want to be here. This stinks or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you'll figure it out the first day of basic.
Yeah.
I think also it's the kind of what Rhode Island is. Rhode Island's a state. It's 54 miles apart. Everybody knows everybody, When they come into RSP, one thing that, all of the staff stress is that this is your family. You're not running those 2 miles for yourself. Get yourself off of your mind. You're running it for the betterment of this organization, the betterment of your community. So, we don't want them to feel that individual stress, because nobody wants to come to work and be extremely stressed out, because that's just not even fun, especially when they're going back to high school and then they ship to training in the summer and they know they're going to go somewhere hot and they're going to embrace the suck for 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to do that.
No, it's not fun. This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
They don't need to be really good at being uncomfortable and suffering. We'll do enough of that.
Yeah.
Basic training, they're gonna feel the pain there. We don't need to practice that. Mm-hmm. Some people think that's the right way to do it. Others don't. Teach their own.
Yeah. And there are parts of the military that are fun, like the Best
Podcast.
Warrior, the podcast, the Best Warrior
this
competition.
This really is the best part of my week. It's not even close. It's not even close.
So,
no, it's great doing stuff like this where we do get to talk to, you guys and other people around the organization and see all the people that make it great, you know. So that said, one of the questions I have is actually, I'll give this one to the captain.
So I was enlisted, Charlie Company, way back in the day, and RSP was flirting with the idea of being a high stress environment. I think my first 2 RSP drills were super relaxed. My next 2 RSP drills, they had brought in some, I don't know if Sergeant Echeverria was a drill sergeant or if she just was playing bad cop that weekend. I honestly don't remember. But they definitely played bad cop for a few weekends, and then we went back to being a much more relaxed environment. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to hear we're back into the supportive learning environment.
Yeah.
That's reassuring.
Yeah, because the captain started out as enlisted. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Charlie Company, first of the... Well, at the time we were...
LURS.
Yeah, we were a LURS, but we weren't first of the 143rd. We were 172nd? I don't even remember. I was there for like 3 drills, and then we became Charlie as we know it today.
Okay.
So I got the half rainbow patch, and the very next drill I patched over with the Texas National Guard arrowhead.
Oh,
so
cool.
I think I have 1 copy of my half rainbow somewhere.
Nice.
But my impression is that RSP gives us a leg up versus active duty.
100%.
So can we tease that open just like a little bit and talk
Unpack
about
that?
Yeah, unpack that. Like what are we doing at RSP for our soldiers?
So let's say you enlist with active duty or the reserves. There's really no accountability of you until you ship, right? So like they'll enlist you and you'll have a contract and you might talk to your recruiter every once in a while. And I'm speaking on like my personal experience. I was enlisted, and then before I shipped, my recruiter called me, months later. Hey, you ready? We're shipping, I'm exaggerating a little bit. We talked a little bit more than that, but it was not at this level. And I think that was only because my recruiter and I had a good relationship. But anyways, this is our way of keeping track of them every month. How are your finances? How's your home life? Have you been getting paid? How's studying going? How's your PT going? They're not just like off on their own. We take care of them. So then the flip side of that is they're exposed to a lot of the different things that they're going to encounter in basic. So they know how to stand at parade rest. They know how to render a salute. They sort of know how to march. We're giving them a good foundation to go off of. You know, they've probably gone down the rappel tower. They've probably done some kind of medical training. So it's not a huge culture shock when they get there. They have a little bit of an idea of what to expect. And from what we've seen, we have far greater success because they're not going down there drinking from a fire hose. I mean, they are, but not as bad as the active duty and reserve soldiers are.
My personal opinion, nothing can prepare you for basic except going to basic. All the preparation in the world is good. It's going to help you be successful at like the academic part, the marching part, all the technical stuff. You know, you can train that, but the stress and how you deal with it, nothing will prepare you for that until you're in the moment.
Yeah.
So, and from my experience doing, going through Air Force basic training through the Guard, you know, I started Guard. We hadn't quite had what was known as the student flight equivalent to the RSP. So I was actually drilling with my unit in the beginning and then meeting every few weeks with our training section who was responsible for the non-priors. And I think it really helped me stay focused and driven while I was in basic training because I knew what I was going back to, where, you know, I saw a lot of people who were going active duty and had that experience like you did with not really having a lot of that military experience beforehand or conversation with the recruiter. Like they had nothing. They were completely blindsided. Mm-hmm. You know, it really helped to know, you know, basic training isn't what the military is. It's that initial part that helps the military figure out if you've got what it takes to perform under pressure and stress, because it's life or death, you know, a lot of situations that you're put in. And to know your day-to-day job probably, you know, when you're training isn't going to be basic training. It's just you're going to do your job. And having that insight going into basic just helped me be more successful.
Absolutely.
I think what you said was absolutely pivotal. You knew what you were going back to, and I think that's like the aim of what Sergeant Corcoran and myself do with the white phase and the green phase. Like, to what the captain said, the stress of that environment makes you not want to be there, you know. But when you know that you're coming back to Rhode Island and you know that you're coming back to people that genuinely care about you in the RSP program, that are going to pour into you, that aren't going to shame you when you have a silly question or you didn't understand something in class, that just makes it so much more, you know, fluid and family oriented. It makes it somewhere where you want to be, somewhere where you want to work, you know.
And somewhere you can learn and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people learn in a lot of different ways. I mean, when we went to RTI and we did that class, there was the auditory learners, there was the physical learners. There's a whole bunch of different learning styles, and we have to kind of like mirror that. Pressure doesn't help you learn. It just helps you perform, you know, when you need to perform.
Yeah, I agree completely. The idea of knowing that you're coming home to, I like the word family you used earlier. So, you know, I enlisted. It was Adam Vita was my recruiter.
Yeah,
Super good dude.
Yeah.
Is he still around?
Oh yeah, he's still around.
Nice.
And he took my fat ass out running. You know, he's like, yeah, kid, you know, you're a nerd in an infantry company. You're gonna get your ass kicked, and it's not even gonna be close. Let's go to Lincoln Woods and start beating you up. It's like, all right, you know, and I was a fat nerd. That was gross. So,
but
you know,
he
I'm
took
out
the
there.
time to invest in you to make you successful.
Yeah,
It seems.
and that's exactly what it was. You know, and then we got in the minivan the day that he drove me back to MEPS, and he's like, "Hey kid, proud of you. You're gonna slay it out there."
Aww.
And you know, you get to basic training, and like no one cares about you. You're one of 55 guys in an infantry basic, and you know, drill sergeant's mean, your roommate's mean. So your basic training, it's miserable, it's high stress, it's not very much fun.
But like anything, it's what you put into it, you get out of it.
Yeah, and the whole time you're thinking, you know what, I've already drilled. I have seven, eight drills under my belt, and I know that I'm not going back to this. I'm going to go back to, you know, guys like Adam Vita. And I got back, and thankfully I met Sergeant Kelly, Ranger Kelly. He was my team leader. And that was the handoff of people who care about you. Because, of course, there's other people who don't care about you, but the handoff of people who actually cared. My family was Adam Vita, and then sometime later Ranger Kelly. It was the continuity of family that was really important.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
You're still here.
I want to speak a little bit to that RSP program too. And you know, I had Jack Flynn, and Jack Flynn was my recruiter, and he spoke absolute life into me. He was the first person that like truthfully told me that I needed to get my life together before I enlisted, and I took it. And I remember him just being so serious about the infantry and
Everything. Jack Flynn takes everything seriously.
He really does. But he was very adamant about the infantry and very adamant about bringing me as a good person into his family. You know, he didn't want me where I was, and that just like sparked the fire in me to just become self-disciplined and motivated. And I see that with RSP, especially the way that we're leading these kids, because we're telling them honestly, hey man, you sucked at PT today. We offer this. We're offering our help during the week. We're offering our help during the month to get you there, to teach you how to be selfless, to teach you how to be disciplined. And this is like, it's such a cultural shift for the Army as a whole, because, you know, when I was coming up in the 115th, it was like, hey, just do what you got to do. Pass the PT test and show up at drill. It was never like, hey, come
There's
out and
more.
PT with me.
Yeah.
Come out and help me. Show me how to run. Show me how to do push-ups. Show me what to eat. Show me how to do land nav.
Because there are like techniques to being
Yeah.
better.
Absolutely.
So that feedback that you got about getting your stuff together, was
don't
that
feel-
hard to hear?
Can I just, he's not telling you the full story.
Oh, please share. Please share the full story.
Do you
Oh,
mind
my.
if I
Go
air
ahead.
your dirty laundry?
Go ahead.
So I got hired and I was working with our master trainer at the time. And one of the first stories he told me, because, you know, we got to learn how to talk to people and this and that. And he was telling me about he was shadowing Jack Flynn to go interview Sergeant Mercado. And they went to like this hole in the wall diner, right? Like cockroaches.
Catrix Diner One Socket.
I don't know anything about it. I've never been there. I'm just like, whatever. So, Jack Flynn gets there, and Sergeant Mercado is a cook, and he comes out, and he was like morbidly obese, 260 pounds.
I was 240 pounds, and I wasn't even glorified to be a cook. I was a dishwasher, man.
Dishwasher.
I literally can't picture this.
No.
240 pounds.
You have been the model of like male physique for as long as I've known you, which isn't long, but like I
No.
literally can't even picture this.
I'm
Yep.
telling you.
Yeah,
Like,
because you pretty much eat, sleep, breathe PT, yeah?
Now he does.
holistic fitness, okay? Holistic fitness.
So 240 pounds. You had one child at the
I
time,
had one child on the way. Yeah.
and you were not married.
Nope.
I don't even think you were with.
I was with the girl.
Okay, so child on the way, dropped out of high school, no GED, and like morbidly obese.
And no license.
And no license. And this guy comes and like just said some really mean things like, dude, you made me drive all the way out here and you're fat and you don't have a license and you dropped out of high school. You got a kid on the way. You're wasting my time with all this. And just like totally just made him feel like crap.
Hard truths right there.
Yeah. And then
it was good though. I needed to hear it, you know? He's like, hey dude, like, I don't know why you're really wasting my time here at 6:30 in the morning. You know, like, call me when you get your stuff together.
That
I
had
would
to be
never
hard to
say
hear.
that to somebody.
It was good.
It was good, but hard.
Yeah, it was really good.
I seriously miss Master Sergeant Flynn. I miss him. That's hysterical.
I remember walking home that day and just thinking about how I got to where I was at that specific point in my life. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in what Jocko Willink says. When you have adversity in your life, think of it as good. It's also a biblical principle. If you face a trial, think of it as good because it's testing your faith to get to the next step. And Jack Flynn did that for me, you know. And me as a recruiter, that's what I devote myself to do to every single soldier. Like, I will pour everything I can into that person to make them where they to make them as good as they can and to get them to where they want to be, you know?
I found what you're talking about is one of the, I think, greatest gifts I've ever gotten from the military was a community that allowed you to have and encouraged hard conversations. I myself have had a number of hard conversations, you know, from mentors and whatnot on things that I needed to improve. And it was hard to hear. And some of them, you know, some of that feedback I'm still working on to this day, but without it, I couldn't have gotten better. And this organization has definitely helped me through all of that.
Yeah,
It's
there's
that
really
family.
no room for, like in our line of work, you can't really just turn a blind eye to mediocrity. You got to address it because it's a pretty serious job. And if you're not doing things right, there could be pretty big consequences.
For me, it was that I didn't believe in myself, and I didn't even know that I could be better.
But think of like if you were questioning yourself in like two-way range, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, can I do this? You know, that's
Yeah.
probably not a good time or place to question yourself. So
Yeah.
I love getting called out.
Yeah.
He does it all the time. I don't really like it from him because it's like he expects way too much out of me. So it's like, dude, why are you like, you're seriously just, that's a pipe dream.
No,
When you
it's
say
not.
that to me.
He can definitely do it.
Can we get an example?
Oh my God.
Oh, why don't you tell them about your rucking pace?
I never questioned that.
No, you definitely did. I've never done under a 2:15.
Yeah. And I hadn't. We were just training up for the road march. And I rucked like I don't know what, 2:45 here in the state.
Yeah,
And then
so
we trained and we did the ruck in like 2:15
it was
in Jersey?
2:12:30.
in Jersey.
And
I
you
didn't
were
question
first.
that though.
Was that a 35 or a 45 pound?
It was 35, I believe, right?
35 dry.
Yeah.
Still,
35.
212. It's like machine pace.
Yeah, and that's like a lot to shave off too. That's not
It was
easy.
all.
In
It
3
wasn't
weeks.
even like a matter of fitness. It was just learning a new
It's
technique.
Just challenging the way that he's been accustomed to doing things, you know. And also, Sergeant Corcoran just got into the mind of his opponent.
Oh, I
Crush the
totally
soul.
did. I totally did.
Crush the soul.
Yeah, we were playing like psychological warfare on this
Yeah,
guy.
It was nice.
He heard footsteps, and
Got it.
that's, yeah.
He heard footsteps and then he seen a back. And then he didn't see the back.
It was like an alligator. Like you're stalking your prey. You're stalking your prey. Like you know, the antelope kind of knows that the alligator is right there, and it's like kind of weary.
Yeah.
And then like we were playing that game for a while, and then we struck, and it was like peace out.
Yep.
That was a good time. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it again.
When is that?
He's gonna break a 150.
See what
That's
I'm
fast.
Do you see what I'm talking about?
That is fast.
You see how tall he is?
Couldn't
There's
couldn't
no
be happy
excuses.
with a two, whatever it was,
Like you said, there's no room for mediocrity, right?
212 is not mediocre.
It's mediocre for you because you're 6'5",
All right.
and you're a ranger and you're absolute.
Sergeant Mercado did
machine.
the Norwegian Death March. What is it called?
It's the Norwegian Ruck March. Yeah.
Okay, Norwegian Ruck March.
I wish it was a death
How
march.
many people competed?
420.
And he came in third. And the only reason he came in third is because he didn't know there was people in front of him.
I had no idea. I was so upset.
Oh
I
no.
was so mad.
And how far was that?
18.6.
And how long did it take you to do it?
3 hours and 3 minutes.
Did you walk at all?
For like the first quarter mile I walked. I stayed in the back to see, like, just to watch how people were formulating their plan. And then I found out there was bananas, and I was like, all right, let's go.
Is there a point at which the miles just all feel the same?
No. Once you hit 12, it just sucks.
Yeah.
After 12, everything sucks after that. You know, 12 it's all right, but after 12, Do you agree?
I've only done like 2 road marches longer than 12 miles, and they weren't timed. They were like just very long. We did like a couple like 27 milers. No, we did one in Hawaii, and we did another really long one, but it wasn't at like some outrageous pace. It was just do it.
Just do it with 100 pounds on your back.
I don't remember. what it
Unknown
was.
distance. Walk.
Yeah.
That's the worst. It's the unknown distance.
I love that.
Where it's just
I
like, hey,
like that.
we're going to go. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That kills me.
I think I like it better too, because I'm not looking for a halfway point or anything.
Exactly. I'm not looking for like and I can't get in my head and like, oh, dude, you're so close. Just at the unknown distance, it's just like, nope, let's go. Turn it off. Let's go suffer.
Yeah. Especially for me, like once you hit that halfway point and you know what your landmarks are on the way back, it feels so much longer to get to each landmark.
Yeah.
I like it because the person that says it, they think that they're going to break me. But my whole intention is to come through that finish line and smile in their face and be like, yeah, you suck. Just like Jack Flynn did to me.
It all comes back full circle.
Hashtag Jack Flynn.
Tell them.
Tell them.
That guy's great. It's my very first time meeting him. I was back from basic training for like 5 months. I think this was my 5th drill, and it was Leap Fest.
Oh.
And I was paired up. My sponsor in the unit was Specialist Didamaso. And Ditto had a bus license, so he had to drive competitors everywhere, and I was his buddy. So I was the A driver. No idea what an A driver actually does, right? Like, so I've made it through infantry basic. We didn't even see vehicles unless it was a cattle wagon, when we were in the back. I have no idea what an A driver does. So, we're driving. He gets lost. He's got to turn the bus around. So he pulls into this pull-off. I run to the back of the bus, and I'm like, oh, let me be helpful. I'll go to the back where they have that big glass door, and I'll just start letting him know if he's going to back into anything. Well, Jack Flynn happens to be driving down that road. Has nothing to do with us or what we're doing that day, because I think you had joined recruiting at that point. It has nothing to do with Leap Fest, nothing to do with Charlie Company. He just sees Ditto driving a bus, and there's no ground guide backing him up. So he pulls over the side of the road, and in comes Jack Flynn. And he's a terrifying human.
Yes.
Right, just storms up the bus, goes right past Ditto, just charges down the bus at me. I had no idea how to be an A driver.
You learned that day.
What did I do? Good times. That was my first experience with him.
Do you know now?
Oh, yes, I know how to A drive now.
So my question is, did he yell at you? Because I've never seen that man yell. Even when he was OCS, when he worked at OCS, I've never seen him yell.
I would describe it as yelling.
Really?
He wasn't red in the face like a drill sergeant, but his volume was louder than normal, for sure.
He's pretty loud, though.
He is a loud guy. Maybe he wasn't yelling.
Next.
Nah, I love him. He's a terrifying human, I'll tell you that.
He is.
So did you want to transition to...
All right. Yeah, let's transition into some personal stuff. So, were you raising your hand?
No, let's do it.
Oh, okay.
Send it.
Normally, we kick these off as a narrative. So I like to ask you once upon a time.
Okay.
Right? And then I put the burden on you to figure out where that story starts. It starts differently for everybody.
Sure does.
So you're not going to give me anything. You're going to give me once upon a time.
I'm going to give you once upon a time, and then you kind of like roll with it.
Going back to, the premise of the show, though, is, we discuss the moments that made you who you are, that got you to where you are today. So, that once upon a time starts with what got you here today.
I don't want to talk about Ranger School.
Talk about mountains. Talk about going up the mountain.
I should talk about that.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Oh.
Or where or bear. Talk about that too. That conversation.
Yeah. I don't know. That is what kind of made me, but I don't want to sound like a cliche D-bag talking about Ranger School, because...
I mean, to be fair, you'd be the first cliche D-bag we had talking about Ranger School. So I don't know how cliche that would be on our podcast.
You embody what it is to be a ranger.
Okay. So
just be authentic.
You are a deer in the woods.
Love it. So
it's part of you.
Once upon a time.
Now I'm nervous.
Pressure's on.
Just take a deep breath. Close your eyes.
Yeah. Let me make sure that I meet your intent. What defined me? Once upon a time, I did something that defined me. That kind of defined my career, defined my service, and all that stuff. And it was going to Ranger School. And I know that's kind of, everybody that has a tab, it's like, how many Rangers does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1, and then, it takes 5. 1 to screw in the light bulb, and 4 to talk about how hard Ranger School was. Right. So I know that everybody that's Ranger qualified talks about Ranger School all the time. But until you've been, it's kind of like, well, if you go, then you'd understand why we talk about it all the time. So, yeah, that's kind of what defined me and kind of who I am and what I'm all about. And what kind of led into that was just being put to that test and just really finding out what I'm all about. Actually, it's funny because I spoke with Sergeant Johns. He's over in the CST. I spoke to him for half an hour this morning. He graduated pre-Ranger today, and he's reporting to Ranger School on Sunday. And we talked a lot about post-Ranger School. We talked about, I gave him some advice that I give everybody that's going. I always tell everybody, the 4 same, key pieces of advice. And but we mostly talked about after Ranger School and kind of just all the things that come with that. A couple things Sergeant Mercado and I have talked about this, and I talk about this all the time about being a tab wearer or a tab bearer, right? So there's 2 types of people that are Ranger qualified. Tab wearers are the people that skated through the school, somehow got past their peer evaluations, and then they're kind of just it doesn't, I'm Ranger qualified, whatever, I don't have to do that. No, I've already done that or whatever. They're just not kind of really living up to the standard. And then there's tab bearers that are that's kind of what internally motivates me is if I'm not doing well with something or I'm not performing at the level I should be performing, I'm getting in my own head dude, no, you got to do better than this. People expect way more than this out of you. I can't be the dude that's running my 2 miles in 16 minutes or whatever, because they're people are going to look at you. Dude, you have a Ranger tab and you're running 16-minute 2 miles. What's up with that? Because I'm kind of discrediting everybody else that's wearing it. So yeah, that's that defined me. Going to that school and graduating totally defined me and changed everything about how I serve it. I was telling Sergeant Johns, you're going to come back and your career, as you know, is totally over with. It's going to be so much different after you graduate. When I talk about this, I talk a lot about instant credibility, walking into a room and not having to prove anything to anybody because it kind of says it for you. And the opportunities that it's going to open up, I got asked to do Best Warrior. I don't know why I got asked. I have a feeling I know why I got asked. Him and I are pretty much the people in our battalion that get asked to go do hard stuff because we never say no to it and we're always up for a good challenge and we typically have pretty good success. So, and we feed off each other like that big time. But that's kind of what I was explaining to Sergeant Johns. You're going to come back and people are going to ask a lot more of you. You're going to have to perform at a whole different level. You're going to have to kind of just live up to that prestige that, people think that you're a cut above the rest and you got to really live up to that. That's definitely the hardest part. So at the end of Ranger School, right before you go to graduation, the RIs, the Ranger instructors, they'll all huddle you up and they'll kind of give you a little talk. And it seems like a pretty scripted talk. It sounds like they give this talk every graduating class, but a couple of things they tell you is, number 1, welcome to the club, right? And then number 2, they'll tell you, all right, guys, Ranger School is the easy part. The hard part is going back to your unit and not being that dude that's I got a tab, I'm good. Or, that whatever. You gotta be crushing your PT tests. You gotta be the standard. And that's definitely the hardest part. And that still guides me and motivates me and keeps me on the right track to this day. And it's been a while. 2017 I went, so not too long ago, but still long enough to have that, that memory fresh. So yeah, that's what defines me. That's what keeps me motivated and kind of, I guess, defines me when we're talking about my military career.
How many times did you go to Ranger School?
So I went 3 times before I did 5 pre-Rangers, and I went to Ranger School 3 times before I finally graduated.
That's resilience.
It was, I had made up my mind that I was doing it, and that was it. It was going to be graduate or die trying. I did some research the other day. So typically, and I'm not trying to like boast, I'm just like, I'm kind of proud of this, and I just found this out the other day. I was doing some research on like the average statistics for people who graduate Ranger School, and it's typically around like 49% of people that go will eventually graduate. In the year I went, I think the statistic was like 33% of people that showed up to the school graduated.
It's wild.
Yeah. I don't know what was up with that year, but, I'm pretty proud of that. Like, all right, dude, yeah, you did it. But it took me 5 pre-Rangers, going to Ranger School 3 times to finally do that.
So I recently read the book Fortitude, and in it, Dan Crenshaw talks about not having a backup plan. Is that anything that fed into you going back, even though you didn't, the first 2 times you didn't graduate, the 3rd time, did you ever have a backup plan?
What do you mean? Like
That's it.
if I didn't graduate?
Yeah.
Nope, wasn't an option. Was not an option. It was, I could have failed it again and again and again. I would have kept going. Should I have had a backup plan? Does Dan Crenshaw say that? I should
No,
have
he
backup
said
plan?
that's the difference. That's the thing that defines somebody who graduated like a Ranger School or SEAL training or whatever,
Oh, is they have a backup plan?
No, there isn't one.
Oh, okay.
The only plan is that you will succeed, no matter how many tries it takes.
That makes sense.
In the book, I think he says there's a plan A and then there's a plan A. I'm
Something
pretty
like
sure
that,
it's something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a mindset, the one that carries you through and gets you to the finish line no matter how many times it takes.
It took a really long time to develop that, though. Like, when I first joined, I was a turd. I was bad. I would show up late all the time. I, would have, patchy facial hair. I would kind of shave, but, whatever, didn't get my hair cut all the time. Wearing, uniform with, a stain on or whatever. I just couldn't get my head on straight. I just could not figure the Army thing out, nor did I really want to figure it out because, it was just pretty much no matter what I did, I was in trouble kind of thing, right? So I was like, yeah, why bother? So it took me a really, really long time to figure everything out. Who am I? What am I about? And actually build, confidence in myself. It was definitely developed. I wasn't born with that, and I didn't learn it until, 5-6 years into my career.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good insight for you to tell new Joes too, because I know a lot of Joes, they think that they are going to come into this organization and just be PT stud, expert on weapons, and
Heck no.
next Captain America.
Heck no. Takes a
You
long
know,
time.
It's funny. I don't think that is all that unusual. So I've been in command twice, and I've had the privilege of about 100 or so soldiers serve under my command. And I think it's a fairly consistent observable behavior that something magical happens at the age of 24 to 25, where soldiers either really begin figuring it out or they're done with their first enlistment in the ATS. And I don't know if that is exposure time to the Army or if that is an age and maturity thing.
Life experience, maybe.
But it is super observable, and it is repeatable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it. How old were you when you enlisted?
So I was 19. But I want to speak on that because frontal lobe development happens, it's completed at the age of 24 for males, and for females it's 22. So, I mean, I can definitely say that my turnaround point was younger because I had more responsibilities. I had a child that was on the way, So, but I can definitely see that. I see that in soldiers too. When I enlist the older soldiers, they're typically a lot more easy to work with. When they come to drill, they understand the standards,
Yep.
think
I
you can see that
really
too.
like working with older applicants.
Yeah.
Maturity.
Something else I've heard too about the difference between young adults and adults is time works differently when you're younger, you can only see time as far as in front of your nose. But as you get older and you have more life experience, you can see more long distance. And that, I think, really impacts the decisions that you make as well.
Oh, 100%.
So I think being patient with younger soldiers is often difficult. And I had a come to Jesus moment. We were overseas. We were in Camp Buehring, Kuwait. I had spent 6 months in Taji, while the majority of my company was still in Kuwait. I eventually came back to Kuwait and met some soldiers for the very first time, soldiers who had shipped while we were already in theater, and they were 18, 19, 20 years old, and found myself very quickly becoming frustrated with them. And my readiness NCO, God bless him, Sergeant Smith, had pulled me aside and had this moment like, sir, these kids are 19. Like, you just have to give them time. Like, I know I see you having an easier time with second enlistment soldiers. I see you having an easier time with your 26-year-old enlistees. I see you having an easier time with these guys. But these kids are 19. Like, I've been here for 150 years. I crossed the Delaware with George Washington, and I've seen this, sir. You have to just give these guys time. So that's something I think I'd like to say to all the lieutenants out there, all the captains out there who are commanding companies. You have to give it time. You have to let soldiers grow into the soldier that they're going to be eventually.
Case in point.
Yeah, the kid that they are at 18 isn't the human that they are at 25.
How long have you guys been in recruiting?
4 years, 3 years.
All right. So one of the things my recruiter did for me as the years went on was kept in touch. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that really stuck with me is he said, your successes are my successes. The longevity that you have in this organization speaks to, my job as a recruiter. And is that something that you guys ever think about?
That just gave me goosebumps because I feel like that's what recruiting, well, specifically the recruiters that are recruiting now, the majority of them, that's how we feel. Like Dylan Johnson, he competed in Best Warrior. I enlisted him.
He won state Best Warrior.
He won state Best Warrior. Like, that, there was no better feeling than seeing somebody that I brought into this organization excel like that,
Yeah. Just like like as a PL or a commander, you're responsible for everything your platoon or company does or fails to do. Mm-hmm. And your soldiers are a direct reflection of you. Same thing with the recruiting. If I'm, TAG told us a couple years ago, like, quality, not quantity, quality, not quantity. And yeah, that's definitely a part in it. If I do not want my name associated with somebody that's going to come into our organization and burn it down, just be a terror. And I can identify that relatively quickly.
On behalf of the MD Force, thank you.
Absolutely.
I mean, that person could maybe one day also be part of the full-time force too,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always treated every one of my soldiers, and this is learned behavior, so don't think that like I got this right day one. This was the privilege of having 2 commands in a row to get it right. Yeah. But by the end, I had figured this out. I treat every soldier as though they could be the next, or not the next, but could be a state command sergeant major, right? Like, the stuff you learn today, the leadership you're exposed to today, the life lessons you're picking up from my NCOs today are going to shape and inform your career for the next 30 years. And you could be the next state command sergeant major and could take all of those traits, all of those lessons, all of those experiences, and feed them back into the organization. And if you're having toxic experiences, you're going to spew cancer.
Or maybe one day commission. How many of our commanders were prior enlisted? So many.
I will just say on like the toxic leadership thing, it's not always a bad thing. I've experienced it, and it has 100% made me better because I know exactly what not to do. Right? And I'm grateful that I had the resilience to make it through that time. But I know what not to do. And that's what I love about being an NCO is I can realistically be the leader I want to be. I'm not an officer, so I can't speak on how things operate for you guys, but from my perspective, it's pretty much like cut and dry. You got to be like this, right? You got to be like this. NCOs, from my observations, very different. We can be how we want to be. You know, of course, there's left and right limits, but realistically, like, if I want to be aggressive, I can be aggressive. If I want to be like, you know, hugs and high fives, you know, not fraternizing though, I can do that. And I love that left and right limit. So since I have that, I guess we can call it autonomy. It's really good to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I have so much freedom. It keeps me, I guess, centered, and I know where to be, because I know this is really bad and that's too far, and I know this is, you know, whatever. It just keeps me on the right track.
I think too, if you're willing and open to seeing what's around you. I know sometimes when you're in when you find yourself in a challenging situation under maybe some bad leadership, keep your eyes open for what else is happening around you, because chances are there's another good leader somewhere else around you, and, you know, looking to that person and knowing what other resources there are, maybe talking to somebody who you trust and can confide in, and navigating those situations, because, you know, there's always more than one way out of a situation.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I think a lot of us are still here today.
We bounce stuff off each other all the time. Leadership stuff all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
So I teach my kids this, and I got it from shooting. There's this thing on Fort Benning. It's called Shooter's Corner, and they said something, and I really love the whole overall message of it. The shooting instructor was teaching somebody how to shoot, and he was like, you know why you have to zero your rifle? It's because everybody's eye is completely different. Everybody's perspective is completely different. So when I came into recruiting, I was very hard pressed on, you know, a soldier needs to be fit. A soldier needs to be able to shoot, and a soldier needs to look like a soldier. And I had some hard conversations with some leaders, and I've had hard conversations with him too, who gets on me all the time, about that's not what this organization is about. Everybody, we have these left and right limits that we have these standards that we have to fill, right? But everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. And just because that person's not doing 100 push-ups, maybe their perspective is different. Maybe they're going through something right now. You know, maybe I need to be a good leader and give my soldier the benefit of the doubt and figure out what's really going on with them. Because if you're telling them to do something, you're commanding them, you're not actually helping them. You're not getting their perspective. You're not seeing their point of view, you know? And I feel like that's such old school leadership. Like, we can't tell these soldiers, hey, you need to do this, because that might not be their life circumstance. I'll speak on one soldier that I have. One soldier that I have has 2 kids and a full-time job. He's awful at PT. Absolutely awful at PT. Well, his mom just passed away, and I had no idea. So last drill, he comes in, he's exhausted, you know. We're expecting him to perform some sort of physical exercise. He knows the standard, right? But he's not performing. Now, why is he not performing? I can't see his perspective. I can't see that he stayed up all last night with 2 kids and he's mourning over his mom, you know. And I have to, as a good NCO, care about that individual and meet them where they are in order to, like, lead them better. And it brings back that family organization. Like, this organization is a family, you know. I mean, I would call Sergeant Corcoran in the middle of the night if he wakes up to give me a ride. I would never do that. I don't drink or anything like that. But I'm just saying, I have that confidence that he would be there for me if I needed him.
Absolutely.
You know?
Being there for each other is a huge part of that family and understanding, and I think that shows tremendous growth on your part. You know, there's a time when you need to give a command, and there's a time when you need to understand, and knowing the difference takes time and maturity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And seeing the value a soldier can bring to your organization outside of the standard checklist.
Mm-hmm.
another rough lesson. So I started in the infantry. I went to the engineers. I got like the bleeding edge of that lesson. Okay, not everyone here looks like a soldier, but man, can they operate vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Day one.
I can say that was my experience. My first AFSC or MOS was combat communications, and my job is now called RF transmissions, but at the time it was satellite communications, which were these big antenna systems. And traditionally, it's a strong male that fills that role. And prior to me joining, I'm not sure how many years before, it was only open to men. So I was maybe one of a few iterations of females that were finally coming through. And it was really hard at the time that I went through to find male leaders that saw my differences, because I'm just not going to perform the same way a guy does. And to see, instead of what I don't do, see what I am able to do, and that what I bring to the table adds something different, and that's still good. And it took a long time to get there. I'd say in the 8 years I was in that unit, didn't really start to see the benefits of that until the end, when I transitioned to public affairs.
That's so awesome though for the new soldiers that are coming in, because that's a growth of the organization from that one person, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like what Sergeant Corcoran was saying, you know, he had some bad experience, but he took good from it. And you know, if that person ended up learning from that experience, that like if that supervisor ended up learning from your experience, then he's going to...
Oh, there were some hard conversations, because don't think that I would have let them
You've never had a
not
hard
know.
conversation. Come on.
I like it.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a bad leader, I'm going to challenge you. Sorry. Not sorry.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think bad leaders need to be challenged though, you know. But
Well, I mean,
be
what are you going to do?
in the right
Fire
way.
me, the E3, because I'm saying, hey, I need you to be a better leader.
They should be challenged, and they should be culled with a vengeance. I have no time for toxic leadership. None. Not in my
Yeah.
company.
But the thing is, the thing that I had to grow through was understanding to believe myself, and to sit and reflect why I felt bad about a situation, and, you know, reach out to my Sergeant Mercado or my Sergeant Corcoran and be like, you know, I'm having this challenge and I want to talk about it and I want them to understand me. So, you know, maybe I need to talk this through with someone I trust, so that when I approach them with this challenge that I'm having with them, that they're going to understand, and they're not going to be defensive, and they're going to make the adjustments that I need so that I can be successful, and that as a team we can be successful. You know, so it took a lot for me to even trust that the leader that I was going to hear me and make adjustments. And, you know, the times that I did feel that I could do that ended up making, you know, we're still close, and I still lean on those people. You know, one of them, I was sick 2 years ago, and I had moved 40 minutes away from my family. It was one of my old NCOICs, and I had nobody to bring me to the hospital. I could not drive myself to urgent care. And I actually called him up, and I was like, I'm really sick. I have nobody to bring me. My roommate's working, you know, and she's got to go pick up her kid from school. You know, can you bring me to urgent care? And he's like, yeah, of course. Took leave for the day, came, picked me up, brought me to urgent care. And he's like, I bet I was your last call. And I was like, you'd be surprised to know you're my first.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And he was somebody I had one of those hard conversations with, you know?
Doesn't always work that well, though.
No, it doesn't. But it's worth a try, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just got to be, you know, got to just be careful, because not everybody likes being called out. A lot of people can't take that information that you're... I went to a Strong Bonds. My wife and I are actually coming up on 13 years together next month.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I asked the chaplain Pock, hey, why do we fight for like 3 days and it's like World War III in our house, and then we go 3 months of like honeymoon phase, and it's just like we're doing this cycle, you know? And he's like, dude, when you're arguing with each other, that's great. He's like, don't show me the couple that doesn't argue, because when you argue, that's two people that actually care enough about this problem to work and fix it. He's like, if one of you didn't care, you wouldn't even argue about it. You'd just be like, toss it to the wind, whatever, it don't matter. But when you're both arguing about it, you're like both invested into fixing this. But, you know, not not everybody can be told that and take that information and like understand that you're trying to fix something, and they're just like looking at it as a threat or an insult or whatever, and it's like, well, I'm so such and such rank, like, dude, calm down. We're like trying to make this place better. We're trying to like fix something. I love getting called out because it's like, geez, I never would have known I was doing that if you didn't tell me. Thanks.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maturity, experience, whatever.
It's funny. I was actually having a conversation with Sergeant Corcoran about a year ago. I called him and I called my brother. My brother's a dean of students, and my brother's a phenomenal leader. And Sergeant Corcoran was telling me I need to meet people where they're at, but I also need to articulate myself, because I don't like to be confrontational. That's not like a big part of my personality. But this particular time, I definitely felt strongly about my opinion. So when I called my brother, he added some great value, and I think this is good for all leaders. He says you have to, and it's the counseling process. This is exactly the counseling process. You have to bring the person to a place where they feel comfortable. And everybody likes their coffee differently, right? Some people like it black. They like it strong. Sergeant Corcoran likes it black. He likes to be called out for exactly what he's doing, because then he's going to fix it. Some people like it with a little bit of cream. All right, hey, Sergeant Corcoran, you were doing this good today, but you really sucked at that. And then some people need cream and sugar. So they need 2 pros before that con, and you got to like really gauge your person. If you know that they're going to be defensive, maybe give them 2 pros. And it humbles your heart, because you're grateful for that person. You're grateful to have the time with that person. And they're more apt to have that strong conversation with you if they feel that sort of gratitude. They don't feel like they're getting crushed in the mud like Sergeant Corcoran likes. He's a little masochist, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's what I found, in doing what you've said. I think that's really, really great insight that you have shared. And those times that you're able to, adjust to different types of coffee, the relationships ended up being better in the long run, better than I could have even imagined.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It helps when you're really genuine. So those conversations you're talking about right now, if you can't approach those from a place of, I actually care about the soldier, not because he's doing a job for me, but because like he's a human and he's my human, and I want him to be a better human for himself and for my other humans. Like if you're not in that place and you're trying to fake the funk, like this is one funk you can't fake.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can see right through it.
Yeah.
Right through it, and it's like
yeah, if you're coming there with like your compliment sandwich, but you're like racking your brain because you can't even think about, right? Like this is one funk you can't fake.
That's the time when it's like, all right, bud, you're getting black coffee. Sorry.
But even then, if you genuinely care about the human, like you're coming with black coffee because you honestly believe, you genuinely and earnestly believe that this black coffee is what this kid needs to be better.
Or a leader.
Or this leader.
Yeah. 360.
Yeah, I guess it's easier to talk down than it is to talk up. I'm talking a big game right now, but I have a really hard time talking up.
Developing soldiers is way easier than trying to fix up.
Oh, yeah.
100 times easier.
Yeah.
Because...
Especially, would you say, where you are, where they're so new, they haven't really made those bad habits yet?
Oh, that's like what I don't understand why, like the high intensity and like, having a hard time at RSP. They don't know anything, so how can you get mad at them?
Yeah. It's like a baby.
They don't even know how to and I'm not shaming anybody. I didn't know how to do it. I had to be taught how to like tie my boots properly.
Same, actually.
So it's like
how can I do it faster, actually, was what I wanted to know.
How can you get mad at that? It's like when they know better, it's like, oh, hang on. You're doing that wrong. You're still doing it. And that's typically what happens.
That's different.
Yeah. Sergeant Corcoran and myself had a long conversation. So when we were prepping for Region 1, we talked about the counseling process for a long time. Mm-hmm. A long time. And one thing that he brought to the table was the initial counseling sets the standards, and having, when he had his soldiers, he set those standards, but he also made sure that they really understood the standards. Because I know a lot of times you'll get a counseling statement that says the standards, and you'll read over the standards, but it's like, I have to perform PT 4 times a week. I don't know what PT means. I don't know how to run. Like, Sergeant Corcoran just really emphasized, he made sure that his soldiers understood exactly what was expected of them. And then when you understand what's expected of you and you have a leader that's willing to help you with that, it trickles down in the organization. And personally, I love leading up. Like, I'm a part of a church, and I call the pastor out all the time. And I like having those hard conversations when he's like, hey man, you're being too strong. You're calling me out about something, but you're doing it in the wrong way. Because it's like that yin and yang. You know, I'm bringing something that I see from a different organization that is not involved with the church, and, you know,
leading from the middle.
That.
Colonel Manning taught me that.
I like that.
Leading from the middle. It's a very interesting place to be leading from.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. I would have enjoyed really having you in Echo Company, by the way. One of my favorite soldiers used my open door policy to corner me and just tear me to shreds. Like 45 minutes of like, you're doing all of this wrong. E5. And you know what? I disagreed with about 7/8 of what she was saying. Agreed with about 1/8 of it. But I respected the hell out of the conversation. I was like, now I see where my decisions and where my actions are, how they're being interpreted. Mm-hmm. So while 7/8 of my behavior wasn't going to change, the way I presented the decisions, presented the behavior, changed as a matter of this
humility.
This one won't ever let me get away with anything. And no, I love it. I love it. That's why we have open door policies, and I encourage everyone out there, if you lead troops, have an open door policy.
Yesterday I was actually talking about, something that's important to me, which is accountability, and that I like being held accountable myself. And it's something that, because I value it, I also want others to understand that accountability, and I will hold other people accountable too. I think it's something that makes everyone better. And it's important to having good relationships is having accountability and being able to talk and like express when things are weird or like are a weird boundary thing.
I love accountability as well. I love holding people accountable on all levels. I love being held accountable. It keeps me on the straight and narrow. But with like the open door policy, I love the open door policy. And if I'm ever in a position to where I have an open door policy, it just sometimes it's kind of like commanders will have an open door policy because the Army says they have to. It's like, yeah, I have an open door policy, but make sure you go through this person and that person and this person and this person and this person to try to make sure it gets fixed before you come to me. Cool. Thanks for making me feel totally welcome. Sure. Oh, roger that. Open door policy. Okay.
But sometimes your issue really is with the way somebody is leading as a commander,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Army may require it, but there's a couple of things we do here that do make a lot of sense. A couple of things the Army does really well, especially if you actually go through the regulation, read it, and enact it. Counseling. I know, certainly for the first few years of my time, I thought counseling was like burdensome. Took a long time. And I only got my soldiers for two days out of the month. This is crazy. I'm not going to spend time counseling them. I got to do this every quarter. It's madness. And I don't know how much of this is because we were, Title 10 active duty, but that was a tool that, when used properly on the deployment, was incredibly powerful. When used properly. And if you go through and you take the time to do it the way the Army says you're supposed to, it's individually, that the soldier gets input, that the goals you set are a combination of professional and personal. You use it correctly, and it becomes an incredibly powerful tool for personal and professional growth for that soldier. The open door policy, I feel, is the same way. Yeah, the Army says I have to have it. Man, do I encourage you to actually do that.
Well, I like the military because it gives me standards. When you're out in the civilian world, there's not a lot out there that says, this is the expectation. This is how you do things. There's no SOPs. You know, there aren't these other people in your community that you can be like, hey, what are some best practices per se? You know, the military comes with all these handbooks, and it's great. You know, sometimes you
does
just
make our job easy.
Yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to show you maybe where the handbook is. Where's the guide? Where's the SOP? You know, and that's something that I truly enjoy about the military, and goes back to the accountability thing. Well, if you know the standards, maybe you should brush up.
So there's one thing about standards though too that we really have to like kind of harp on. We got to make sure that the standards are in line with the person's life, you know, because if the person doesn't want to have those standards, then it doesn't matter what we do. It's you're beating a dead horse, you know, if they just don't want to encompass those standards. And that's Sergeant Corcoran mentioned that like he notices that toxicity at the beginning, you know. He can kind of like pinpoint that, and that's not the kind of person that I guess, I mean, the organization can definitely mold them through AAR and counseling, but we got to just make sure that they're in line with those standards. It's hard, especially being a recruiter. You know, sometimes that Joe comes in and you're like, you're just not going to be a part of the standards, you know.
Well, I forget the specific terms that they use, but in our Airman Leadership School, before we put on NCO, you know, we do this leadership training, and they talk about the different levels of engagement for your airmen. You know, are they just going to be the airman that shows up and, you know, they're just going to meet the standard or whatever? Are they going to be that airman that, you know, shows up, gives a little bit, or are they going to be that airman that's completely bought in? You know, they're in for the long haul.
They're
you
drinking
know?
the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And just knowing that you're going to have some percentage with your shop or your unit or whatever, that everybody's going to be at different points of that at different points in their career. You know, there's been times where just showing up was all I could do, and that was the best. But, you know, there's other times where I'm like, yeah, I'm in it for the long haul. Like, this is where I want to be. This is it, you know?
Absolutely. That's an always changing thing.
Yeah.
I've been in the National Guard for 3 years, and I've had some pretty high highs, but I've had my lowest lows of 14 years of service. And yeah, but it's changing. But, you know, resilience and just staying optimistic, you know, like getting promoted, you know, I'm motivated to be promoted for getting into the positions where I can really influence change and like have I don't know, you know, my voice means a little bit more, you know, as I go on. I don't think my voice doesn't mean something. I think it does. But I'm saying, like, you know, the further I get, the more influence I'll have. And I don't think things are broken right now. I don't plan on getting there and changing everything, but I definitely have some things I'd like to do differently.
Yeah, different positions come with different responsibility and different impacts. So, you know, I think that's really cool that you're looking at that.
Yeah. And it's not that, you know, it's just I've seen things that I've really liked in the past, and I just, you know, want to incorporate those things. I'm looking forward to it. I love being a leader. It's like, it took me a really long time to figure out how to do it. Trust me, and it was a nasty road to go down. Like, am I nice? Am I mean? What am I? It took me years to figure out who I am and like how I want to lead, and I've learned some lessons, but I feel like I'm where I want to be. I feel like I'm the leader that I wanted growing up, so I'm excited to be able to put that stuff into practice. Recruiting's really unique. We don't have subordinates. I just came from SLC last month, and I was like one of the only recruiters that did not have subordinates. All the other recruiters, they all had junior NCOs working for them. So it was really unique to, you know, it was all, we talked about leadership for 3 weeks, and here I am with no subordinates. Been leading for a long time, but this position right here is really unique because I'm not leading anybody other than myself. I'm influencing a lot. I'm influencing my peers. They're influencing me. And I feel like I have an influence over my organization, my battalion. I feel valued, and I can influence that. But yeah, not having like an actual subordinate is is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Being an NCO and not having subordinates to take care of is kind of weird.
You get that a little bit at RSP though.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. It's yes.
I mean, they're kind of like babies. They're not really soldiers yet. But.
And they're still looking to you for guidance.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On how to army.
But not on a daily basis. Not on a, I see you at work every day kind of thing.
But I think Sergeant Corcoran does like that silent leadership too. You know, like when he walks into the room, it's like he is that bearer of the tab. Like, you know that he's gonna be squared away. You know, he has all of his stuff. You know that he's the person that you can go to ask those hard questions. You know, like I ask this guy questions about leadership all the time. I don't think I've ever asked you a question about tactics, but I ask you questions about leadership all the time because I know that he is a good leader and I know that he has a good heart for all of the drills that he has. He has hard conversations with some of his workmates sometimes, and they come to drill. Yeah. Like, he's so mean, but I'm like, he's not mean. He just cares about you, you know?
That's true. And honestly, there are supervisors out there. That's how you know they care, is they are giving you feedback. You know, you've showed that you have a level of engagement in the organization that, you know, he's going to put, or she is going to put some time into. You know, because, again, meeting people where they're at, where are they as far as engagement into the organization? Because not everybody necessarily has the space in their life at that time to have some of those conversations. Sometimes you got to be patient and wait.
Yeah.
That conversation definitely beats the alternative. There's nothing worse than getting no initial counseling, getting no quarterly counseling, having your boss make no time for you, and then you get an OER at the end of the year that's just Google copied and pasted. Like, wow. Sir.
Do not get me started, please. I don't think we have enough time.
So then maybe now's a good time to pivot. Have we done the Once Upon a Time for Sergeant Mercado?
We haven't.
We have not.
Yeah, let's do
I mean,
it.
we kind of did at the beginning, and I don't know if that's going to be the same story a second time. But I don't know.
All right.
Once upon a time.
Maybe we pick up where we left off.
Okay.
That's true. You actually hadn't enlisted when we left off. You were still a line cook / dishwasher when we left off.
Not a line cook.
Not a line cook.
Not a line cook. So, once upon a time, after Jack Flynn had crushed my soul.
That's a rite of passage.
Yep, it was a rite of passage. So, I had 60 pounds to lose before I could be eligible to enlist. I had to get a GED. I had to shave my face because I had this nasty bird's nest on my face, and I had this disgusting fro. It was like I had French fries in my fro. And I really wanted to enlist. And the reason I wanted to enlist is because I came from a different kind of a background than probably a lot of Joes. Like I came from a single mother household. My brother is a double Ivy League major. My sister went to BU and Wheelock, and they're in the human services. My mother was a mother at 14 and had no formal education. And at that point in my life, I felt like all of the struggle that my mother had done from age 14 to me being 18, almost 19 years old was for nothing. You know, I just had totally blew all of the opportunities that I had. And I went to a good school. I was smart. I was very good at math, you know, but I chose the wrong path. So I'm walking home that day, contemplating my whole entire existence. I get home, and my daughter's not born at the time. And I'm thinking about, I'm going to have this child, and I don't have any way to provide for her at all. You know, I'm a dishwasher working 96 hours a week, making $8 an hour to try to provide for this new human being that's going to be here. And then reality hit me like 20 days later when we had this child and she was in the NICU. And I remember so distinctly just her coming out and looking like a little alien because she was a premature baby, you know? And I'm like, I have to take care of this. I don't know how to take care of this. I'm not going to be able to do 96 hours a week for the rest of my life. And they put her in this little incubator and they do this thing called tummy time. And I had a real come to Jesus moment when I held her for the first time, because she didn't want to go with her mother. She did tummy time with me. And I was like, I have to go to school. I have to get my GED. I have to get my license. I have to do this National Guard thing. This is going to be the way for my child. So 40 days after, my daughter was born, called Jack Flynn back. And my daughter's out of the NICU at this time. And I'm like, hey, Sergeant Flynn, it's Angel Mercado. And he's like, oh, you're not fat? I was like, no, I'm not fat. In fact, I'm 184 pounds. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I got my GED and my license, and I also have my daughter. And we ended up taking the test the next week. He was very shocked by my score. I remember him distinctly looking at me like, holy crap, I didn't think that you were going to score that well on the ASVAB. I'm like, I'm not dumb. I just made dumb decisions. Like, gosh, don't hurt me anymore. We went back to the office. I met with Sergeant Vinci and Sergeant Flynn, and I was dead set on becoming infantry. Dead set. I wholeheartedly wanted to be an infantryman. Sergeant Flynn's like, no, you're going aviation or MP. And at this point, I'm like, I like PT now. I lost 60 pounds. I'm feeling like more comfortable with myself. And I'm like, yeah, this is good. And I'm like, which one is more physical? And he's like, the MP route. So I ended up enlisting to be an MP. Fast forward. So you got the daughter. My daughter kind of was the catalyst to the fire. So I get to basic training and I get to AIT. And I've always like excelled at stuff. Like anything that I really put my mind to, I didn't have to ask any questions for it. I didn't have to ask for help. I just excelled. Get to basic training, I excel. I come in first. I'm PT stud. I get to AIT, and there was a little break. There was a winter storm between holiday block leave, and I go back to AIT, and we're on pistol call, the day for pistol call, and I go to qualify. I've never touched a pistol before in my life. But I'm like, I got this. This is too easy. I'm just shooting a target that's 25 meters away, whatever. And I end up failing it 3 times, back to back. And at that moment in my life, I've never been more crushed, because I had put everything on the line. I promised my child a better life. I promised my mother that she was going to have somebody to be proud of, And I just failed, So later on that day, I had a hard conversation with Drill Sergeant Solano. He's like, maybe you're just not meant to be in the Army. And I remember calling my mother, and this is like the first time I talked to her after, leaving for basic training. And I'm like just apologizing to her because I feel so like such a failure. Like her other kids are doing great things, and there's me, and I suck.
Can't shoot a pistol.
Huh?
Can't shoot a pistol.
Can't shoot a pistol. Had a target that's like right there. Like I'm missing the target that's right there. I just broke down and cried. I ended up getting recycled back to the beginning of AIT, and it was hard because I picked up the Bible, and I remember reading about humility, and that was just something that I didn't have. I didn't ask anybody for help. I didn't ask anybody to instruct me on how to do this. So get recycled back, and I just started to ask for every kind of help I could get from any person. And I started valuing other people's opinions and not thinking so highly of myself. I get to pistol qual day, and I failed twice. 34 out of 35. No, 34, and I need 35 twice. And then the last time, Drill Sergeant Sheffy comes up, and he's like, what's your problem? You got this. And I'm like, I don't have this. I don't know what you're talking about, Drill Sergeant. And I remember him putting on a Hillsong song. Hillsong's a Christian station. He puts on this song, and I'm just listening to it. And I end up shooting a 49 out of 50 for that last qual.
Wow.
So.
Was it Oceans?
How do you know that? You
Curious.
weirdo? Yes, it was Oceans.
Good at that.
It's a pretty good song. So, yeah, that's me. That's kind of who I am. So now I've devoted myself to asking everybody for help every single time I can. Sergeant Corcoran, can you help me move? I think this
Yes.
is a good time.
Yes.
This is a good time. I'll put him on the spot. Nobody ever wants to help anybody move.
Buying a house, right? You're moving or whatever.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you're buying a house in this market?
No. We're looking. We're looking to close.
I feel like everyone's buying a house in this. This is the worst market, like historically ever, to buy
But
a.
if you sell your house and then you buy another
I'm selling my house.
Nice.
Yep. We're going to buy a piece of land, buy an RV. We're going to go live in the RV while the house is being built.
Homestead too.
Mm-hmm.
How many chickens do you have?
Right now, I don't know. Probably over 100.
It's a lot of chickens.
We couldn't find the room that this was being held in. So
Yeah.
we were like, late. And Mercado, he just goes like this. And he's like, yeah, whenever you walk into a room late, you just go like this. Like, hi, everybody. Because then they're going to be like, oh, he's weird. That's why he's late. I'm like, Mercado, it's us. Like,
I dare you to try it. I dare you.
like, we're wicked weird.
Listen, at the next military ball, I'm gonna do it. Okay.
Show
What
up
are you
late.
gonna-
Like, that
Show
that
up
was,
late.
and he legitimately said that to me as advice. Like, wasn't kidding around. Like, oh, yeah, dude, if you're going to walk into a room late, do it like this.
I think we just found our teaser trailer.
Yeah.
See, he's been practicing.
That's great. It's
Yeah,
almost
he's
like the
got
live long and
really
prosper, but
good
not.
I'm
It's more like
almost certain he
Zoidberg.
walked into the room like this, too.
It definitely happened.
But that, look at us.
Yeah, we're good, right? It's comfortable.
Okay, so we've been at this for almost 2 hours now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, an hour and 48 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun.
What can I
Yeah.
say? You guys are great.
Thanks.
Before we wrap up, though, is there any closing thoughts you'd like to share with us? Whatever's on your mind, whatever's on your heart. What do you want to say to us and our audience?
You're the weird one. You start.
No, you're the weird one.
No, I don't have any additional comments. I've spoken too much. Your turn.
Your turn.
I think we're good. Huh?
We covered
Alright,
everything.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us. This was
Yeah,
a lot
hey,
of
thanks
fun.
for joining
This
us.
is awesome.
Yeah.